In this video, I'm going to talk to you about mass media. Now, what is the mass media? As we know it, the mass media in the ancient times, which is basically, the times that are past. It started out with the print media, writing, and then television, radio. All these are the older forms of mass media. And today, later on, you have the internet. Now you have social media. So there are quite a few different types of media. So what is it about the mass media that we need to know and we need to discuss in our general paper essay, the A levels? There are many different ways we can go about doing it, but I'm going to sort it out for you according to the political, economical, environmental, and social frameworks. Right? So from a political perspective, has the mass media affected us? How does it affect us today, and how does it change us? Right? In the past, where the mass media used to be, at least here in Singapore, controlled mostly by the government. For example, print media, SPH, television, Mediacorp. This all comes under SPH, which you guys know who sits on the board, right? Ex government workers. And who do government workers work for? They work for the incumbent government. So many times you have things that are like, if you took a look at a picture of the Workers' Party rally in the Straits Times, you will only see maybe a small portion of the people who were there. But if you went to the actual Workers' Party rally, you would see a huge stadium and people crowding outside trying to get in. And I know this because out of curiosity, I went for one of these rallies, and I saw people literally climbing the walls and the gates to get in, right? And the mass media merely just reported that there was a rally going on. It didn't show the extent. Well, in 2011, this totally changed, right? With the advent of social media, this totally disrupted the entire scene. People could now take pictures with their mobile phones. They could post it on the internet, and citizens could go online and read about what was going on, these huge debates that was going on between the two parties, and you could actually see that, hey, what I was seeing in the mass media, this isn't exactly what was really going on. People could go online and look at these pictures posted on social media. So social media was a huge game changer on our political landscape in Singapore, right? The government had to go out there and figure out what to do with the social media. Now, every minister and his best friend has a Facebook account, right? It's a means that they interact with the citizens. They can get personalized feedback online quickly, and it's how they're responding to the situation. Whereas in the past, they used to say that Singaporeans are politically apathetic, that they don't really care about the political process. Every election they're just going to vote the PAP, and there's no significant opposition, there's no credible opposition. And yeah, true, it was pretty boring up to the point about 2008, 2011, and then you have these social media technologies that actually challenge the incumbent's position. So you can see how mass media, social media, this has interacted in a way that has changed our political landscape. 2011 was a watershed year, right? For the first time in many, many years, the PAP lost a GRC, right? And this was like big news. Everyone's like, whoa, they lost Aljunied. This is crazy, right? So now you see not so much political apatheticness anymore, right? So that's one way that the mass media and social media has changed our lives today. Now, let's take a look at the economic perspective of the mass media, right? We all know that the mass media is supposed to be reporting on events without bias. They're supposed to not have any vested interest, right? But in your general paper, you want to question whether or not this assumption is true, because after all, the newspapers survive on advertising revenue, right? And where do all this advertising revenue come from? It comes from people who want to advertise, right? But they have, implicitly these mass media companies, they have a vested interest to protect the interest of their biggest contributors to their revenue. Just as how politicians in the US, right, they get to power through political funding, and so they also kind of have to protect the interest of the people who fund them. On the other hand, if you want to argue for the fact that mass media is not biased, it is neutral, you can always say that number one, the function of the mass media is to act as check and balance on governments and corrupt businesses, etc., etc. And number two, the mass media is unlikely to be biased, because if they start, writing a lot of biased reports, and then people discover this, then their readership goes down, it goes south, right? And if the readership goes down, then does advertising revenue go down as well? Yeah, I think the answer would be yes, because advertisers need to reach out to as many people as possible. So if your readership is going down, then your value to advertisers is going down also. So this is how mass media is affecting us. This is an economic perspective on how it works now with the advent of social media, new media, right? There are different economic implications for us also. Okay, let's talk about the environment. Initially, whether or not any attention was being paid to the environment was mostly from mass media when a huge tragedy such as the collapse of the Fukushima plants in Japan, then you have a lot of media attention on that topic, right? But today with social media, you could draw people's attention to all sorts of different environmental causes, what's going on with the environment. So mass media usually they report something, Hurricane Katrina or some kind of huge environmental disaster. Sometimes they pick up the smaller stories as well on a slow news day, right? But with social media, everyone has a chance to bring attention to the cause or the topic of their choice, the environmental topic of their choice. Finally, we talk about the social impacts of the mass media, right? So advertising and mass media can actually influence how society thinks and how society grows as a whole, because whoever controls the largest medium of communication also controls the largest means of persuading people, and advertising is one way to do that, right? You think about all these fashion magazines, all these fashion icons. Like in the past, it used to be that the skinnier the girl, the more successful a model, the more highly regarded, and this created a lot of societal problems, right? You have girls getting anorexic, girls not eating properly just so that they can become a lookalike of one of these models. So advertising can be really, really impactful if it's used in the right way, as well as if it's used in the wrong way. So take for example an informative kind of advertising from the government about the 10-minute Mozzie wipeout, right? I'm sure as many of you have seen lately, there has been a huge dengue outbreak, and the government has been advertising informational articles for Singaporeans to learn how to fight dengue, learn the dangers of dengue, and this is all very good advertising. But what happens when advertising goes wrong? And firms or corporations use advertising as a way to achieve their more sales or a means to an end that might not be so morally acceptable. For example, sometimes some businesses advertise multi-level marketing products or pyramid schemes, even worse, right? Pyramid schemes are something like if you read the news about Bernie Madoff in 2008 during the financial crisis, he created a pyramid scheme that was so huge that affected so many people that many people lost their life savings because of him, right? So advertising in its way could be very dangerous if it's not used correctly. I think what you want to think about is whether or not advertising in itself creates the problems, or the companies that advertise or the people that advertise whether or not they are the ones that create the problems. So very quickly, I've taken you through social, economical, environmental and political implications for mass media as well as new media. If you have any questions, any queries, try get in contact with me, find a way, ask me those questions, and I'll be glad to help you out. Enjoy. Thank you.